and Buxby has the floor. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so we have the foundation meeting called to order. Terry, will you take roll?
Yes, I will. Mr. Mahoney,
Here.
Mr. Dinsmore, Mr. Buxby,
Here.
Mr. Osnanik,
Here.
Mrs. Brink,
I do have one more attending, but it's not Mrs. Brink. I just checked.
Mr. Rickrode, Mr. DePlacido,
Here.
thank you. Mr. Cancilla, Mr. Ring,
Here.
Mr. Gilbert,
Here.
and Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Thank you.
We have 4 absent. Okay, motion to accept the minutes of December 17th, 2019. Who wants to
So
make that
moved.
motion?
Second, Dennis.
Great. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 That was a domino effect, by the way. Okay, we have correspondence, the list of the 2019-2020 scholarship recipients. Gary, do you want to show that?
Jeff, do you have that available to pull up at all
Maybe.
on the agenda?
It's in the agenda.
Yes, it is.
Sure. Let me pull that up.
It's in the JOC agenda also under the foundation. As usual, the scholarship committee made a request of you back in December to be sure, because they knew that the meetings were going to be less frequent. They wanted to get your support for awarding scholarships. And at that point in time, they hadn't completed interviews or determined the recipients. So what you're doing this evening is seeing the various comments that the students made about how would you describe ECTS to someone who knows nothing about your school, and the various responses that they made. And then there's also on the next page or so of Maria's email, the listing of who the awards are going to in terms of what programs and where they're headed in terms of post-secondary education.
Well, we only have what, the 1, 2, 3, 4, we only have 5 classes listed.
Drafting, health, precision, cosmetology, electrical engineering.
Yep.
Those are just the scholarship ones, not because did we give any other awards this year like we did in the past for?
These are similar to the awards you've done in the past, Dennis, but no, if you're recalling the time that we asked the foundation support to do additional per lab awards because the students weren't in classes, that did not happen this year.
Yes, correct. And that do we have maybe you could throw what school district they were from maybe later? It won't hurt, please.
Yes, I can send that out. I don't believe it's on this document, but I believe Mary Folkrod has another document that would list what school districts each one of them attend. I can get that for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments on that?
Yeah, Jim, Steve from Union City. Do we have a budget on those scholarships?
Basically, yes. They ask for a certain amount of money and we give them that amount of money and then they disperse it based upon the scores of the interviews.
Okay, I was just curious because, you know, if we could increase it a little bit, I don't know if that's possible, is my question.
Well, we'll have to approach that for next year.
Right.
We've already discussed the donations made by the foundation for this year.
I understand that, but my question is there a reason? I mean, you know, could it be more? Is it possible?
I'm sure that they would love to award more if there's discussion on it early on in the year and a higher number is determined. I'm sure that the scholarship committee would entertain that additional awards, either for the ones that they have selected or maybe even increase the number of awards if that's something that all of you would like to do. We can, you know, check on that at the next session.
Right. I guess that's my point. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to, you know, promote our children and the kids that are going through our program. And if we have the money just sitting in the bank, you know,
Well,
why not give it away?
We had a large discussion about that when they asked for the money, and these were the limits that we imposed upon the foundation.
Steve, the money comes out of, we've got money with the community foundation. We can pull a certain percentage of that and turn it into cash. So that's what we can only do that once a year. A lot of that depends on how the investment, you know, does. And obviously it's been a rocky year this year. So that's a good discussion item. We'll have to see where the money is when it's that time, when we get into looking at that in the winter time.
No, I understand that. And I guess what brought to my attention is that we, based on this chart that I'm looking at on my minutes, we dropped from $600 to $150.
Yeah, I'm just recalling from past years, we, you know, when we were meeting in person, we had a rubrics, a lot of times didn't tell us what student it was, but it scored them. And a lot of times the scores were really good at the top, and then there was a clear defining point where they dropped lower. And so that committee has made the determination. Sometimes we didn't do any down in the $150 range. I know a lot of times it was more than that, but there were less students that got it.
You can, I'm learning about that Rubik's or whatever evaluation form, and as far as I'm concerned, you can throw it out the window.
Well,
Very
find
good.
a window big enough.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can.
Here
I
we go.
just joined the meeting.
Don't hold back, Steve.
Dennis, your voice isn't, your mic's not on.
I just turned it off and on.
Okay.
Yes, I recall that this is more, we've been increasing since I've been on the board, the scholarships. So we've been slowly increasing it because we did originally have only like 4. Now we upped it to 8. So we have been, I think, being generous as long as the money's available.
But has the money increased or just the quantity?
The money has increased. It was like $500.
Okay.
The quantity has increased and also the quality of that money has increased over time. But we're still limited 6 months before this to decide how much we want to give out. And then the committee decides which students get awarded some monetary.
I guess what raised the red flag to me is we went from 600 for number 5 down to 150. That's a big drop. When your number 1 person got 750 and your number 5 got 600, but your number 8 only got 150.
Well, we're at a disadvantage not seeing the scores because there could have been a gap between those 2 scores.
Yeah, well, I know my feelings on those scores.
Well, How else are you gonna do it?
Interview the kids personally,
That's what they did. That's in the scores.
Steve, there's
but
an
it didn't
actual,
take the human feeling into account.
there's the committee that does those interviews, Steve, and if you want to discuss this with them, I'm sure they'd be happy to explain their criteria and how they do this. But I know that that committee does interview several times with each student.
Okay.
They give a score to them.
Yeah, they just don't look at some written input. I mean, they sit down and they interview the students at the same time. They look them in the eye.
Am I correct?
Yeah, but you said that it was determined by the Rubik's evaluation, and we all know a lot of kids don't test well. Is my
The
point.
numbers comes down to the Rubik's based upon the kind of interviews that they did, the essays that they wrote, and those kind of dimensions. Anybody else? Comments? We don't have to vote on this. This is, we've already voted on the amount of the scholarships. So with that, we'll move on to item 5.
For the record, Terry, I think we should note that Mr. Rick Rode and Mrs. Brink did join the meeting.
Yes, I have them marked in. Thank you.
Motion to approve the payment of the scholarship awards as presented.
Second, Dennis.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any more ayes? Opposed, same sign? Okay, motion passed. Terry, do you want to handle the payments?
The only other item on tonight's agenda for the foundation is the bonds for myself as your business manager secretary, and also for the board treasurer, who is Mr. Ring. We normally do $250,000 each for surety bonds, and I just need that approved so that we can move forward and get those in place for the July 1st date.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
This is David. I make a motion.
Dennis,
Steve, second.
Whatever.
Okay, who seconded it? Dennis?
Sure.
Okay,
Or Steve.
okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Terry Brink is saying she can't hear anybody. I didn't know if that's something we want to address
Her mic's off.
in the chat. I don't know if we want to address it with her.
Can you hear us now? Terry?
No, she
Yeah,
just,
I'll talk to her via the chat, but I'm just letting everybody know she can't hear us. I'll try to troubleshoot from the chat.
okay. Our next meeting is August 27th at 6 p.m. Look for a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn. It's David.
Second,
Steve, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think it needs to be noted that a couple, the speakers are off, so we didn't hear their voice. Okay. so
Aye.
that concludes mine. Sam? it's your
Yes. Thank you. Hey, Jeff, I just gave your cell phone number to Andy. He's having a problem getting in.
I got it, Sam. He's on the phone.
Okay.
Thank you.
And do we have Terry figured out yet so she can hear us?
I want to work on that.
Terry, talk to us. I see you're unmuted now. She can't hear us.
She said she could hear in the beginning, but she can hear nothing now.
Check her volume on her.
Have her log off and then log back in.
I'm going to send her a note in the chat to give me a call.
All right. we're just going to pause here before we go in and start the meeting till we try to get these guys on.
I think all of you received an email that Valerie, the auditor, had drafted. And I just was asked, normally she comes and does a pre-audit meeting with all of you in the work session, but due to this year's circumstances, she decided she would just communicate via that document. If there's any questions or comments that you'd like to make directly to her, she asked me to please encourage you to do so. And then she will plan to be presenting the audit for both the school and the foundation in the August 27th session. So that way, about a week before she attends that meeting, as soon as she gets the 990 in draft form for the foundation, I will be sending that out to all of you, because part of her questionnaires for the IRS filing are whether the board has had a chance to review it before it gets filed. So I just thought, when we have this little break, that I'd remind you about that whole process that we do each year.
Hey, Sam.
Yes, Steve.
My question is for our attorney, Tim. With all this voting, and I didn't realize it last year, but Valerie is my first cousin. Should I abstain from that?
You would abstain for her contract. You don't have to abstain from the audit itself.
Okay,
So
I didn't realize it last year, because it wowed me the night she showed up for the meeting. I'm like, wow, I haven't seen Valerie in forever, and but she is my first cousin.
Yeah. You can vote on the audit itself. There's no problem there.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Right. It would just be her contract. When we approve her as the auditor, and I don't remember when we did that. It's been a few years maybe. You would have to abstain then.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Gary, can you hear us now? Frank?
Yes.
There she is.
Very good. Jeff, how we coming with Andy? Is he going to get in, or should we wait any longer? He's busy trying to fix it.
No, I sent him back to the link on the website. He said he registered, and he's in his car and he's got his device. So he's like, can you send me the link for the meeting? I already registered. I'm like, I think the only way you get in is either click on the link in your email or go back to the website and click on the link on the website, and it'll recognize that you're already registered.
Gotcha.
So hopefully he'll be here soon, but I don't see him yet.
Okay. Well, if you keep your eyes out, we're going to go ahead and get started here and we'll move along. So with that, let's call this meeting to order and have a moment of reflection. All right, let's do our best at the Pledge of Allegiance.
I got you your flag.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty.
All right, Terry, can we have roll call, please?
Yes. Mr. Mahoney,
Here.
Mr. Dinsmore, I think is still a work in progress here. Mr. Buxby,
Here.
Mr. Osmanic,
Here.
Mrs. Brink,
Here.
Mr. Rickrode,
Here.
Mr. DePlacido.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Cancel is absent. Mr. Ring,
Here.
Mr. Gilbert,
Here.
and Mr. O'Donnell.
Here.
Thank you.
Very good. Takes us to motion D to approve the agenda and the agenda amendments. We do have one amendment. Is there any other amendments that we need to add to this?
Last month, we talked about possibly ending our contract with the fingerprinting company and didn't see that on the agenda. Is that something we're going to discuss again tonight?
What I asked for here, because we weren't going to meet and with everything happening, is we were going to do just a abbreviated, get the things that we had to get done before the end of the fiscal year done here tonight. So that's not on the agenda at this point.
Okay.
Also, I would like to add at least a discussion on the renovation project engineering, just to see where it is. It was supposed to be done here at the end of June. I understand things happen, but I would like to get that, at least a discussion on that as to where it stands.
Update on that. All right.
I agree with John on that, Sam.
All right. We'll add it.
Okay, now, let's make sure we know what we're talking about with regard to an update. Chris Coughlin would be here. Some of the faculty would be here. Fred would be here, and the JOC would be invited to hear the update, and there would be drawings presented. I just want to make sure that that's what we're talking about here.
Well, my understanding that what we'll add to the agenda tonight is just a discussion on where we're at, kind of why we need to set our next meeting, which I'll make a proposal here because we usually don't have one in July. We'll have that in person. So I think we'll roll that all into that discussion under that item number, if that's all right with John. That I think that's what he's asked for, just to know we don't want to push this thing down the road any further than we need to.
Well, we appreciate
exactly
that it's going to be in July when we get this update.
Right.
Yeah, we just needed an update as to what's happening and when everything's going to be happening.
Yep, I want to get that set before we are done tonight here.
People are getting nervous spending money and not seeing what we're getting.
I understand. So is there a motion to approve the agenda and the this two amendments?
David, so moved.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, very good. Moved in second. Any discussion?
Just a reminder, when people make motions and they second, please state your name so it's easier for Terry to keep notes.
Thank you.
Do we get that, Terry, or do we need to know?
I have Mr. Mahoney and Mrs. Brink.
That works for me. I heard him.
I think I'm kind of distinguishable. I'm probably the only woman, but I'll still say my name. It's okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Excellent. That takes us to meeting minutes. Motion to approve the minutes of May 28th.
So moved, Mrs. Brink.
Second, John.
You get your choice, Terry, which one you want there. Look at that. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Very good. That takes us to guest and public comment. Jeff, was there anybody still that would like to address the board?
There is nobody in the meeting requesting unless they registered with Terry. I'm unaware.
Terry, you're still clear?
No, I didn't have anyone from the public register.
All right, that takes us to number 4, operations. And just again, because of the shortened agenda, instead of grouping these together, I think we'll discuss each one and have a motion on each one. We shouldn't have to drag this out here too far. So motion number 1 to approve the final 1920 general fund budget transfers as presented.
So moved, Terry Brink.
Second.
We discuss it all and then we're going to vote on all of them. Is that correct or wrong?
No, individually, Dennis. So right now we've got a motion and a second. Is there any questions on the general fund budget transfers?
No.
All righty, hearing no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. So number 2, motion to approve the AB calendar for 2021 school year.
Can you clarify? I see 2 versions out there. What's the difference? One looks like it rotates either Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday with some Fridays, and the other one rotates, looks like every other day. Which one are we approving?
I'd like you to approve both of them, to be honest with you, David, and this is the reason why I want you to approve both of them. This is Joe Tarasowood speaking. I presented this to the superintendents and presented them both to Dr. Walker. Right now, I'm at a stalemate with the superintendents, meaning that I've got 5 superintendents that would like me to keep with the AB that just strictly rotates. I have 3 superintendents that want to use the AB that are scheduled days with a Friday rotation. I've asked for them to reply, but of course now House Bill 1210 throws a curveball at this. But again, I'm having a conversation with Representative Pat Harkins the last couple of days about that. But I'd like to have them both voted on. Again, I've taken some liberty with the one that is AB with the rotation of Fridays, because if I just strictly rotate Fridays, with an AB, I don't have enough days in the first semester. So I had to piggyback a couple to make the A students get their 90 days in. But again, both schedules are right now what I designed and presented to the superintendents. And again, I think it's going to end up being the AB strictly rotation, but I want to have both of them approved for conversational purposes with them.
All right, and would this plan only be in effect if you're in yellow phase, or is this for all? Obviously, red phase, there's no in-person school.
This would be only for the yellow phase. The superintendents and Dr. Walker and I were at a meeting about 3 weeks ago. I'm thinking in my mind, that slips me a little bit, but we all agreed that if we go to green phase, that we will be going to school full time, but we will take precautions with mask and some modifications of that nature. But every superintendent agreed at that meeting, if we're in green phase, school will be operated as normal.
Do we see us going back to yellow once we go green?
Very likely, when I'm reading from Secretary of Pedro Rivera, he expects us to be yellow come December or those months. But again, we all hope not. We're crossing our fingers, but a lot of people expect us to go back to the yellow phase sooner or later.
Terry,
Well,
all the
I
districts
think the
are
question
charged
then
with-
becomes, under what conditions do we switch the calendar?
Yeah, how does this affect, I know we had our discussion at Harbor Creek that Pedro, I think is his name,
Yeah.
literally he's saying one thing and the governing body is saying another, and then we can't get the Republican state Congress to agree. So what is the deal? I mean, if we go green, we're going green on Friday and they really think we're going to go back to yellow, then why are we not able to definitively say what's going on?
Terry, the reason is that House Bill 1210 came up with a realignment that now strictly says that for school days to count in a brick and mortar situation with public schools that we are, that online instruction would not count as days. That's what Senator Pat Harkins and I have been discussing, because that's what the politicians, if I may use that term, are stressing right now, that they are strictly saying that 180 days is 180 days with House Bill 1210. Again, my conversation with Representative Harkins is that if we're in yellow phase, we cannot be in our school, and therefore, as Secretary Rivera, Education Secretary Rivera, is stressing that we would have to use some form of online. So that's going to be the reason for the AB schedules, but hopefully they'll recognize those online instructional hours. If not, it's going to become a creative situation for all of us as superintendents, as administrators, and as Dr. Walker as a director. We'll have to really discuss those things, but that's what our July will be busy built around. But right now, the AB schedules are what I'm counting as in-person instruction and online instruction for our school.
And we really need something to move forward, and the school districts are attacking this in a manner that's not unified. So at the end of the day, we can only have one schedule to run this school. We can't accommodate multiple schedules for different schools. So they're continuing their conversations, and this is not unlike what happens when they present a calendar for us. Every year they present a calendar for us, and by the time at least 3 of the superintendents are back to their office, they say that they're going to deviate from the schedule. And then that creates a whole lot of extra work to try to find alternative ways to meet the 180-day requirement. So we're kind of stuck right now, and we've got to keep things moving. And we're in a situation where there's a lot of hand wringing, both in the medical community and politically, about what to do and how to move forward. And the advice continues to be from IU5, at some point, you're going to have to just make some decisions for yourselves. And so this is the next step in making decisions for ourselves. I think the key that's a big hole in this conversation is, under what conditions do you switch back to the AB calendar? And that's not been discussed.
So is this an ABC, or is it an AB?
Please don't use the term C, because that brings up meanings to people that were throwing that around. And I don't even want to define what that C day was. So right this point, we're talking about an AB schedule with a couple of options on how do you spend that Friday. And it's going to have to be split evenly so that the kids get their 180 days, or as close to it as we can, but it's got to be fair for both the A and the B group. They have to have the same number of days of school within one.
Terry, what you're hearing at Harbor Creek, Terry, is that, of course, Kelly Hess would prefer the one that is an AB with a Friday rotation. That's the one she voted on. Because again, they're trying to accommodate their parents, which I do understand, where A students would be coming on Monday and Wednesday, B students would be on Tuesday, Thursday, a rotation of a Friday situation. Again,
actually, we had online only on Friday, I believe.
Well, that's what Harbor Creek was maybe doing, only online, but the tech school, we're not. We're bringing our kids to school one out of those 2 days. Okay, so again, one day if they're off, they'd be online. The other day they'd be in school. And stuff like that. So that's where you're getting that ABC mentality. Ours is strictly an AB where they would rotate Fridays.
So can I just bring everybody back to the same point of reference now? We're talking about that C term has come up in the conversation, and it's kind of like the cat's out of the bag. There was conversations early on about a schedule, AB or ABC, where the C was going to be that all students remained at home for online instruction. And that was not well received by the group as a whole. And so that was largely taken off the table for us. So in order to try to quash the confusion that was going on about that, we're not even using the C term. So we're in some form of an AB rotation. And at this point, we can't define which one it is, because we're having debates among the superintendents, and they're going to have to work it out amongst themselves.
So what you're asking us to do on behalf of the tech school is to approve both drafts at this point, to allow you to continue working with the superintendents to get one unified schedule that meets the vast majority of the group of schools here. So that's basically what you're asking. You don't know still details on what it's going to look like in the end.
And nobody can predict what's going to happen.
Right.
No, that is absolutely true. I guess what I would say, if anything, it just gives us the opportunity to get that one extra superintendent that hasn't voted yet to give us the 6-5. But again, right now we stand at 5-3 with the AB strict rotation.
I think we need to put a motion on the table, Sam, to bring this to a.
And Tim, can we handle both of these options with one motion?
One motion.
All right.
I say we go with Joe's recommendation.
So is there a motion, number 2, motion to approve the AB calendar for the 2021 school year?
I motion it. Yes.
Dennis?
Second, Gilbert.
Gilbert second. Any more discussion on this?
Yes, I would like to raise a point. It would be very helpful, Sam, if the JOC were to direct us to define by the July meeting the conditions under which we would revert to the AB schedule if we're in yellow zone.
And that's from the administration or the superintendents?
Well, so you sort of, as the JOC, in my opinion, as a conglomerate of the school boards, it's my understanding you hold the higher level of authority here. And we sort of need to have some, we're going to be going back and forth between green. There's a risk that we're going to be going back and forth between yellow and green this year. We can't be flipping and flopping the schedule back and forth.
Right. I'm
So
agreeing
this
with,
conversation needs to be sort of ironed out sooner rather than later about under what conditions are we going to be switching to yellow? And if we switch to yellow, does that mean we're staying yellow for the rest of the year? Because you can't disrupt all of these school children on their patterns repeatedly.
Well, but will the Department of Education, Pennsylvania Department of Education let you stay AB once they go back to green? Let's say we start green, we go yellow, and then we go green again. Then what happens? Will they let you even stay at an AB schedule?
Well, Terry, I think the issue here is that they're not going to give us a solid answer until their back is pushed right up against a wall. And in the meantime, we've got thousands of kids that are going to be in our schools. So I think we need to sort of be proactive enough to control the reins here, and certainly be adjusting if we get direction from Harrisburg. But they're not preemptively giving guidance. They're just saying go green and everything's happy ever after, and what's bubbling up in the news is going back to yellow. You can't run all these different school buildings in that manner.
No.
Hey, Sam.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
lunches?
I understand what Dr. Walker is saying, because, you know, our hands are basically tied based on what the PAC does. It doesn't matter what we want to do. You know, if the superintendent say we're doing 100% opposite, we don't have a choice.
I'm not sure about that. That's why I'm asking the question.
This is Dennis. I like the full days, but I want to make distribution, or they have to, the home schools will have to give them lunches to take with them. That's what we're doing it. We're having pre-made meals, and the children will get them and delivered to their classroom. So
Yeah, Dennis, ours aren't full days. I want to make sure you understand that. We would operate our school just the way it operates. We'd have an AM session where I've already identified A-day AM students to the districts, and we would have B-day students in the building. And the reason for that is that I've got to keep the building at 50% less capacity. So again, half our labs would operate on one day and half would operate on another day. And that's another sheet that's attached there where I showed you my work with the reopening schedule there. I don't know if Jeff can show that or not, but again, we would only operate because, again, that would give me the opportunity to utilize rooms to keep the safe distancing in effect. So again, half our staff would be AB staff and A staff, and half our staff would be B staff, and so would the students.
And that goes back to my point that if Erie County goes back to yellow, and the bulk of the schools say, you know, we're not coming, then whatever we want to do is a moot point.
I understand what you're saying, Steve. Yeah. Joe, you want to explain that?
I mean, what's
our screen?
Yeah, on what you see on the screen right now is if we had an A-B schedule where A's, which are green, would be on Monday and Wednesday. Those would be students on Monday and Wednesday showing up for their half sessions. And the B would be blue, and they'd be on Tuesday, Thursdays. You can see Friday has kind of a rotational feel to it, but I balanced it out, especially the first semester, to make sure we are in school 90 days for each group. The second calendar that's up there, which would be AB, Jeff could roll to that one. I think he can get there. This one that's coming up right now, that's strictly rotation. It'd be an AB, 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 C, you know, no C, of course, but AB. So again, that's just strictly rotational. That's the one that most superintendents right now are in favor of. There was some other information. I don't know if Jeff has it there. It was an Excel spreadsheet, Jeff, with my reopening proposal for ECTS, where I showed the labs in the school districts right there. Yeah. with this, it shows you the numbers, and I was trying to help the superintendents look at the bus loads when you look at the total A and total B. Again, I just wanted to present this information as best as I could to the superintendents to help them look at bus loads and things of that nature. But again, the grade came in there, and I don't know why that would be, the dark gray, but those are A days. The one is Kelly Schulis is green. That would be an A day as well. But again, it allows me to show you that the school is 50% capacity in those total columns there.
Hey,
Now,
Joe,
Joe, let me ask a question. Harper Creek moved our start day up to the 24th. I thought that was to accommodate you guys. That doesn't look like the same calendar, though.
No, our start date has always been the 25th of, this is what the superintendents gave me to work with Dr. Walker. I have not changed the start date at all. All I've done is made it an A-B schedule. So we get, right now, the 24th for us is an in-service day.
Okay, I'm confused why we started ours a day sooner then. We just voted on it last month.
Well, we need to keep in mind that all of these schools operate on different collective bargaining units, and our first days are specified in the contracts.
Okay.
Okay, let me reiterate what I've heard to try to clear this up, and Joe, feel free to tell me if I'm not understanding. Under green phase, which we move to tomorrow, under green phase, we're going to use our regular calendar, have normal half-day sessions, students in the building the whole time. That using mask and social distancing as much as possible. But that's the understanding. Is that, am I hearing that correct?
Yes, you are, Sam.
Okay. Then the second part, the calendar that's on the table right now then, or the two calendars, are to approve in case we go into yellow.
That is correct. And they would be half-day sessions, Sam.
And what Dr. Walker's wanting is some kind of an understanding, or to ask the administration to come up with a plan to share by the July meeting, so that if we move from green to yellow, what kind of parameters are there for going into this calendar? And then, Fred, am I understanding you want to understand how to come out of that, or that can we say something like, when you give us parameters and we approve that next month, then I guess what I would lean towards is we're going to go to yellow and go to the AB calendar that's chosen until such time as the JOC would vote to go back to full day, because the moving from yellow to green is not going to be a quick thing. If it happens in the fall or the winter, you're right, it probably won't change for the rest of the school year, but we would have that opportunity. Is that kind of what you're looking for, Fred?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to stress again, and I know, I'm pretty sure Tim is probably up to date on this House Bill 1210. But again, this House bill can really throw a curveball at all of us, our discussion right now, because if the politicians, the state representatives, and the law does not allow online instruction to count, we're going to have to really have a major conversation later on in the year. So again, it's just right now there's a lot influx here, and Dr. Walker and I will spend a little bit of time in July trying to figure this all out. But right now I'm trying to get it out of the State Representative Harkin's mouth about this problem.
Right. I think the Pedro Guerrero brought that up in order for the purpose of raising the issue now as opposed to later in time. I do believe that ultimately, depending on how the year goes, they'll be forced to take some action in regard to the 180-day rule. And I think that it's going to be one of those wait and sees. I think the reason that he raised the issue at this point in time was to try to get the issue in front of the legislature so it can be solved. And but I think ultimately it will be solved. And I'm just talking about the 180-day rule and not necessarily the calendars that we're talking about here today.
So,
I guess
okay,
are
John.
we squared away for the
I'm
green?
just gonna
Did I
say
hear
that-
this? Wait, hang on a minute. Did I hear that we were okay with the green that we're going into
You did.
as far as busing?
We didn't talk about busing.
That's not our problem.
Well, it's our problem if you go to A to B and we double the number of buses.
But we
All I
have no
can do is-
influence over busing, John. We
Huh?
have no input.
Busing is an individual school district issue, not the VOTEC issue. John.
Which is affected by what we're talking about too.
Sure, but John, you wouldn't add any more bus trips. It would just be half the students. You would still run the same amount of bus trips. It would only be half the students on the bus approximately coming out each day. If we
Well,
went to
that's
the
not what-
AB.
No, that's not what I'm told, but
There's a lot of confusion and consternation about busing. And we have very much stayed out of it as we've been sort of prompted by the PAC that this is not our issue. So we have not weighed in on this conversation. Joe, if you've got a different perspective, now's the time, but that's
Yeah,
been
no,
pretty
again,
clearly,
Jeff-
just leave the busing to us.
Jeff, if you could show that spreadsheet again with the numbers on it, Jeff. What I've done there, John, if Jeff shows that up there in the total columns where one's A and one's B, I've shown the number of students for each district that would be coming out. So I'm just going to stay on the top line of Fairview right now. Jeff, if you could move that to the right a little bit, I guess, so I can see there you go. Fairview has 12 coming out in the morning and 17 in the afternoon on the A days, 14 on the morning and 18. Now that's Fairview, and I understand that. Mill Creek, of course, Darcy Mosley, when you see that, you'll see you have 29 and 46 and 16 and 34. And again, I know those can be a problem for Mill Creek, but again, John, we had 5 buses bringing 5 kids on a bus last year in the morning sessions. The afternoon is going to be the issue for Mill Creek because again, they would only bring 2 buses out there, so they'll have to be creative in the afternoon. But again, I try to give the superintendents at least a glimpse of how buses would look if we were in a yellow phase and stuff like that. So I try to do the best I could with this to get their conversation started in your own districts. But again, we're like Dr. Walker stressed and all, we have nothing to do with busing. That's the districts. But I did want to help them look at numbers because I assigned the students this year. I wanted to be out in front of them. So I assigned A students and B students to make sure that my building was safe and manageable.
So John, does that help?
yeah, it does. Thank you.
All right, Terry, you had a comment?
I forgot what it was now.
All right. Any other discussion here? Obviously, our vote to move this will not clarify anything, but hopefully give some direction. And Tim, are we okay with just adding that we'll, ask the administration to come back for a plan, a criteria to move from regular days to the AB schedule? Is that, can we just throw that in with this motion?
Can I clarify? Sam, can I clarify?
Sure.
It's not the ECTS administration that needs to come up with this answer. It's the school districts.
So we're asking the PAC to come up with that criteria.
That's going to have to be a JOC request to, via your school boards to the superintendents.
We can ask.
Especially if you don't have any meetings scheduled between now and July, but this is going to very quickly become a significant issue as soon as somebody calls yellow.
We can ask. That's the best we can do.
With the same question. I mean, that's what I said earlier. I mean, it's going to be almost a day-by-day thing.
Right.
Nobody can predict the future and what's going to happen. We're going to have to get together and react. I don't think you can be proactive in this case.
Well, I think you're absolutely correct. I think I'm looking into my crystal ball. The way this is going to play itself out is that if someone calls to go to yellow, we go to yellow, but the The big concern from my perspective is that we're not putting the kids in a whipsaw, switching back and forth between, green and yellow. But I understand that that's going to require Pedro and the legislature to make some authorizations not to have to meet the letter of the law right now, which is kids are in the building 180 days.
Which they waived last year.
Understood.
I don't think there's any way that I think we already have the criteria. If they announce it's yellow, we're going to the AB calendar, and it'll stay that way until something changes or the who knows at this point. But I don't know what other criteria that individual school districts need to come up with, because we're not going to be able to get anything more specific than that.
Understood.
All right, we got to follow the lead of the
Go to
state.
Ohio, maybe?
Deal with it, so.
All right. Any other discussion?
Hey, Joe, one question. So the kids, if we do go to the yellow and we're on the AB schedule, what do you envision the students doing the days that they're not at the facility? Do they going to have take home work to do kind of stuff, or what's the plan there? They going to have virtual classes?
What we'll do is as I already said, half the programs, if they're not teaching that day, they'll be online with their students. Our staff will be online with their students, giving them online activities. They're going to be present to making sure their students can interact with them. So again, when the student's not in our building, they'll get an assignment. It's kind of like flipping the classroom, that philosophy. Well, they'll do a lot of theory work online, and then when they come back that next day, they're going to be jumping right back into the lab section with a little bit of support for there. So that's what they're going to be doing, David.
Got it. Okay. So the teacher will spend in yellow. The teacher will spend most of the time with the online students, and the days they're in the classroom, they're in self-independent.
Well, no, again, I just want to make sure you understand it. Half the labs are A labs, so the teachers will be engaged with their students on that day. When the students aren't there, those A teachers will be online with their students. So they're always going to be engaged with their students, either in person or online.
Hey, Tim, can you check the chat room to see what Jeff's saying, please? I think that's it, Sam.
All right, very good.
Sam, if I may, I just wanted to say kudos to Joe for a great job of what he wants to do and presenting it to our superintendents. I can't imagine the work that he's gone through. Thank you.
It's been a lot of work, and he's done a really good job.
Thanks, Joe. All right, so let's have a vote on number 2, the motion to approve the AB calendar for the 2021 school year. I guess we need to add if needed. Is that in there anywhere? Because
that would be correct.
Yeah, if needed, because we're in the yellow phase. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, that carries. Thank you very much. Motion 3, motion to approve the health and safety plan for submission to PDE.
So moved, Terry Brink.
I'll second it.
All right, who wants to discuss this?
I think it's probably the same thing as we have at our school district. It's a proposal. They have to give them something, and then it's not written in stone, and if it can vary. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's a requirement that PDE is an assurance that we're looking at sort of what are we going to do. This is required for us to be able to open the doors for students, and it has to be in roughly around, it can take effect as soon as July 1st. But without it, you can't start operations at all.
Most of it's a template. For the most part, you guys went over, tweaked it anywhere.
Yes.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. So motion 4 to approve the award the secured vestibule construction projects at the high school and skill center buildings to the following. You see them listed 1 and 2. Someone like to make that motion?
David, so moved.
Steve, second.
All right. And who's going to pick up the discussion on that or share this?
Well,
Is that
I guess,
Craig?
Do we have a start date?
We have to award the contract before we can have that conversation, but they're ready to go because it has to be done before the kids get in. And that's a big reason why we're having our conversation tonight as opposed to waiting for July.
And then my next question is, what are the odds that we don't get this grant to pay for this down the road?
Thought we already got it.
We already have it. Is that right, Terry?
I had believed they need to see the bid to be able to mark it as approved, don't they?
Oh, let me give an update on that. That grant has been approved and it is substantially approved. But in order for us to complete the application process, they wanted to have bids. And so I've been back and forth. Terry's been back and forth with them for months on this thing. So as soon as we get this work done tonight, we can send it into them. We've already got the award. They just, part of their process is that you have to have the bid submission process.
one of the things that I guess I was disappointed in is I just got a set of drawings today because I asked for them. I know the bidding went out, I don't know, 2 weeks ago or whatever. And in looking at, I've been in meetings all morning, and looking at these drawings, they're pretty extensive. And I don't know about the rest of the board, but there are some questions. I know I have some questions and I'm not ready. I need them answered myself. And I just started looking at them. I don't know if the rest of the JOC would want to look at it, but I would suggest you do. There's some major renovations here, including some issues that I have with personnel. I see offices moving around. I see this, I see that. And I just saw the drawings and I don't know anybody else has, but I would suggest that you look at them and make comment. We've had a committee to kind of redo this, kind of stop the renovation committee. We haven't met in, I don't know, 3-4 months. And this would have been a perfect subject to go and review and make sure everybody had an input. And
So how did you get the drawings, John?
whatever. I went and picked them up
Is there a
myself.
problem though, John, that if we don't vote on this tonight, then we can't get started?
You can do whatever you want. I'm just saying, I would suggest you look at it. We're talking a lot of money here, and that's my problem. We're not
Well,
getting drawings.
Can you
We
tell
haven't
me
seen
what
them,
your
and
major issue is, John?
I've got a lot of issues. I wrote down 7 or 8 of them before we even started our other meeting this afternoon.
Can you give me maybe
And
your top 3 that I can hear?
Well, okay, do they have door open detect? Do they have alarm? Are the locks? Are there cameras? Are there card readers? And who is manning this window that that they're going to put in for the security vestibule? That's just part of what I saw. I didn't get to the rest of it, but the point being that you should be looking at this before we do it. I mean, do what you want. But I'm saying it was disappointing that it wasn't put out there with the bids, and it should have been, just for nothing else, so everybody knows what the heck's going to be happening up there. So I would like some answers before I vote. I don't know, we'll get them today. Chris is not on the thing, and if not, that's fine. Whatever, I'll vote the way I think I should.
Jim, did you have a question there?
Well, right now, all we're voting on is the general contractor for the lobby area, not for anything else.
That's correct. And this funding is coming wholly from the grant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Dr. Walker?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any input on some of John's questions there? Did you understand them?
Can
They
somebody
came by
just-
very quickly, Sam. I don't know what the complete set of questions are. I get the spirit of the concerns John's noting, that he would have preferred more time to look at plans and so forth. I guess the question for John is there a showstopper here? You know, this, when you say it's a lot of money, when you're, I guess from my standard, it's not all that much money, and it's already grant funded. So I don't know how deeply involved with the with this kind of work detail that the JOC wants to become involved. I'm a little surprised to see questions raised about how we have people arrayed in an office. If the JOC wants to weigh in at that level, it's, you know, I guess I'm still learning.
This, Dennis, I thought we did talk about a little bit that we did see a little bit of preliminary sketches, but I don't know what the new ones look like. But like John said, but we did have, you did address, I think, the personnel one time, because we had somebody letting them buzz in anyways, and they're just going to move over where they were, instead of buying their office, they're moving over there so they can see the people. Is that correct?
It is correct, and we have seen drawings. Yeah, these are just the final drawings that were put out for bid. If it is the JOC's desire that we would share all of that stuff with everybody, that's perfectly acceptable to me. I'm not accustomed to having to put out to a governance board this level of detail for basic mechanics, but if that's what you want, then we'll be happy to put it out.
Well, seeing as I'm voting on the money for everything, I'd like to see it.
Those documents, when Chris made them available, I did send them out, and it was just today, to the renovation committee, I believe. You should have at least 2 emails in there about that. Or maybe that was just a conversation between John and the architect. I have to go back and check my messages on that. I know
So it was just Chris.
The renovation committee as a whole this afternoon late.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just me, because I'm the one asked, but it should have went to the committee at least, I think.
Well, because this is the reason we wanted to have a real meeting, so we could actually touch them and look at them, like John was saying. It's unfortunately, we went this direction. I was hoping to wait till next week, 30th.
We can wait. It's just that we won't be able to have the work done before the kids are here.
Can we perhaps vote to approve the bid, and then we can go through next month, next week, whatever, look at the plans, and if there's a problem, resolve that before like full construction, because right now they're only going to be doing probably demolition and getting ready in the next, I mean, I can't imagine they're going to have it done in 2 weeks.
They're going to have to drop the parts orders and the supplies orders, you know, and if there's a request to start changing.
Are the parts and the supplies going to be significantly different based on what we say? I can't imagine that it's going to be a huge difference based on what John's saying. He's just looking at some different schematics, is from what I'm hearing on his part.
I heard just a couple of top 3 issues, one of which involves seating arrangements for which there has to be furniture purchased for people. So, you know, if we're going to open this up for a bigger conversation, then I think we need to put the brakes on it, because I don't know what the scope of the questioning is going to be. And I don't know what the scope of the desired input would be from the JOC.
I think having Chris
on hold is just a fool's errand. If you're going to put this on hold because you want to dig into the minutia, it seems almost silly to me, because we can get this started. We can vote on the bid process, have it started, and then we can look at some of those minutia facts. And if there's a huge problem, then we can address that. Because even ordering furniture, and that, if let's say that was a problem, some of the furniture being ordered, you could cancel a furniture order if you needed to. So I think we should just get going, get started, so that we have this done in time for school, because any more delays, we're going to be pushed back again.
John, you were saying something there?
I forgot what it was.
Okay.
I know if we change it, well, when it's started, obviously it's going to cost a little bit more. But the main point, again, and take it as you will, I want to see what we're spending money on. And if I have a question, I want it answered. And that's all. And maybe a quick conversation with Chris and with everybody. you got to see what this is. It's pretty involved. And for us to spend money like that, I feel that I need an input, at least into the, that I have a question on it and not just blindly approve it. That's all. That's my opinion.
John, I just wanted to bump in here for a second. I mean, I did answer a lot of those questions when we had that conversation last month. We looked at this and you said, is this in line with the overall larger renovation? I said yes. As far as staffing goes, Joe and Jeff are in charge of where the secretaries sit and how that's going to be manned. There's already a plan in place for that. The doors do have card readers. There are electronic strikes on them. There is a window. Cameras are in place. Part of another grant is to add additional cameras. So this is to go in line with the Act 44, create a man trap with a window that can observe the front entrance by the Safety Act. So those are the things that we've done. We followed all of that. I followed your instructions that you gave me last time we had this conversation. But everything is in line with what you asked for. And so the changes in the office area were to allow staff to have direct view of this transaction window, which would be a secure vestibule at the high school. And then we are creating the same thing at the Skills Center, secure vestibule with the transaction window. So that's the goal of all of this in order to do that.
Yeah, and we did have a conversation on it, and I did make some criteria. But when I see the drawing and I want to understand what we're doing. That's just me. And I want to make sure that the things we talked about are there, and anything new. I just want to look at it. That's all. And if I have a question, I want it answered. And I think the rest of the JOC should want the same thing. I mean, if you need to see this stuff and make comment. And if there's no comments, great. But the fact that it wasn't sent out, that anybody could comment, we wouldn't have this. We wouldn't be having this discussion, or at least my discussion. But yeah, I mean, if I sit down with somebody and I ask these questions and they answer it, I'm fine. But to get the thing here this afternoon, only because I asked for it, not because it was given to me without my asking, and then to have this meeting to approve $100 and some thousand, I just think it's worth comments and answer to JOC board member comments.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with this desk. I have one comment. I think that like Dale, we did talk about it. I didn't get to see the final details, but I would really willing to approve this thing, and we can say that John, since he's on the building committee, to review the drawings, and if John approves them and gives the answers, go forward. Could you add that to the? That's what because I don't think we want to delay on it, and I give you the go ahead, John.
Well, I think the committee, not me, the committee.
Well, we're going to give you you'll be in charge of it.
Well, that's fine.
Well, Dennis, I don't know that that's appropriate to let one member have a veto over anything. I think some more review. I think Fred's already addressed the, not sending it out to everybody. I think that's something that at least the building committee could definitely get. I think if they have some input, they ought to be heard. Questions ought to be asked and answered. I don't think that's unreasonable. I think we can approve this, and if there's some tweaks going on, let's remember this is, number one, it's grant money. Number two, we're talking about a total renovation. That's why earlier on in our discussion was, making sure at least the major components of this could be reused, because there's going to be some rebuilding and moving some things around as we move into the full renovation project at some point here in the near future. But it was deemed to not be worth waiting because it has so much to do with the safety recommendations that are out there to be able to get this done. So that's been some of our.
Sam, I just would like to say that my takeaway from this conversation that we had the last time we were together was make sure that this design is reusable with a building renovation. So I'm really kind of taken aback that there's a request to go into the design drawings at this point. If I'm not offended at all, and that's the right of the JOC to request whatever they want. I'm just very surprised. I'm not used to working at this level of oversight for a small project like this, particularly when the funding was secured outside the taxpayer base. So if that's a misunderstanding on my part, I'll own that all day long. But I would like to say that this has been brought up multiple times. We've shared design drawings. We've talked about where the resources are coming from. People have seen the floor layouts of it. This is just the final document set that was put out to bid. So certainly in my mind, this is not the big renovation, and it's not as taxpayer resources, something that would perhaps mandate as much public input. But if you want to have that, that's fine with me.
I think that's so noted, but I think that we have a building committee. I think they can weigh in and ask some questions just to make sure everything, I don't think that's inappropriate. I think that's good. Get the drawing out to everybody. I think if John already has them, Jim and is it Terry? Who else was on the building committee? Seems like there might have been somebody else. Yeah, and obviously Dell's seen it. But have some interaction the next couple of days, and let's move forward with this so we can get it done this summer. Understanding again, it's not a fix all end all, and this is the end of the conversation forever. But
I am curious,
and I don't have anything yet.
because I'm not sure how this would work. But let's say we have the committee go into the design at this point and start raising points of concern. We've already put this out to bid for this set of specifications. So if the specifications change, then what happens? Do you put it out for bid again?
No, we would do a change order. A change order would have to be put together. The change order would actually have to come back, depending on the size of the change order, to the JOC to award the change order. Obviously, the change order would have to be agreed to by the contractor, and then ultimately approved by the JOC. I think that in the past, in regard to construction contracts, we have had provided the administration with the discretion to approve necessary change orders up to a certain monetary limit, because we're dealing with the summertime, we're dealing with construction. I think that's appropriate. That's not a motion that's on the table here today, nor am I saying we put it on at this point, but because we already have a motion on the table, I believe, I hope.
Yes, we do.
But that's how we would handle that.
And that's fair.
And a second on the table right now?
We have a motion and a second. We're ready to call if we're ready, and then
I'm calling the question then.
any other discussion?
No, I'm calling the question. You call
All those, Steve, you're talking, but you're muted.
I got one question. My only comment is, I understand we had a building committee on this whole thing. And unless I missed something, I don't ever remember the building committee coming back and giving a final report and say, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going out for bid for. And if had that happened, maybe John's questions wouldn't even have came up.
That's exactly the point, Steve.
That's true, but our building committee is dealing with the overall renovation. This was a piece that came out of the safety review. So I think it's a good place for the building committee to work, but it was not specifically as part of what they were looking at originally.
Sam, Andy Dinsmore.
Howdy, Andy.
How are you? We've done a couple of these vestibule renovations at LaBeouf, one at the high school, one at the middle school. The design, the process is all pretty consistent with what Chris had designed for us. My problem with it was the price. And I quite honestly, I believe it was because this bid process started before these prints were approved by BIU. And in the process of that, I believe that made those bids come back a little higher than they needed to be. So this was only a process, once again, of just kind of rushing that out the door and not having it, you know, in line and communicated before that. I have a feeling some of those bids, that 125, whatever, $1,000, yeah, was higher than it needed to be because of a couple of those issues. But as far as the construction, as far as the design, it's been very functional here. It's been very secure at LaBeouf. It's been a source of security both for staff, kids, and parents. So.
All righty, let's call for the vote before Terry leaves.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Now, this is caveat that the building committee, renovation committee, is going to look at it and make comment.
Yes, please do. So, Fred, we need to get the other members there. If we can get the drawings out to them, like we got to John there, get those out. Any discussion? Let me throw this out based on what Tim said. Do we want to, in the discussion with the building committee and with the administration, do we want to put a motion on the table to allow any movement, maybe a percentage wise, if need be, for change orders? Or do we want to totally wait on that and see what happens?
Tim, what have we done in the past?
I think we've authorized the administration to do a change order. It's based on a monetary amount or a percentage, either one. I don't know what we're talking about.
$140,000.
Yeah, $145,000 contract here. Do a change order based on 10% or.
That's the percentage I thought, you know.
I make a motion to give the administration the authority to submit a change order up to 10% of the total contract value.
Who said that?
That came from David. Is there a second on that motion?
Steve, second.
Okay, Steve O'Donnell, second. Any more discussion on that? And that would be in conjunction with the building committee. So if there was something that they saw that wasn't in there, then administration could approve that without another JOC vote, up to 10%.
Yeah.
I don't have any discussion. I'd like to make a statement, though. I'm kind of uncomfortable with the way that our conversation has gone, that it would appear that we perhaps moved too quickly to get this project approved and moved through. And this was an expedited project that was under grant funding with tight timelines. We didn't even make the tight timelines for the grant application, trying to get the bid process turned in to begin with. And I just want to make sure that it's on the table that we brought this to the JOC on multiple occasions for multiple comments. Maybe we could have shared the plans, but at this point, I worked with the facilities manager who's been working through the issues with the architect, and a set of plans were prepared and then put out to bid. If the JOC wanted to have seen that more, then we can modify as we go forward. I just don't
We'll do that.
The sentiment out there that somehow this was tried to be rushed through.
No, this is Dennis Olesnik. Dr. Walker, we were supposed to meet in person and get to see this stuff today. And that's what I thought. And when it fell through that we weren't going to meet, and then we had this meeting suddenly. So you put us under a lot of pressure. And I'm going with John's, and I want to make sure mine noted that the building committee to review it and okay these things, Terry. So put that on I'm yes for this stuff, but I mean, you put us behind. I think you've been whipping us horribly, Dr. Walker. We wanted to see these things, and we were supposed to meet in person today.
That was the plan before we had a COVID exposure in the building.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. So don't pick on us, the board. We're trying our best, and you're making it awful hard on us.
Although we have a motion and a second to allow the change order up to 10% as needed, based upon review of the building committee, with the administration approving that. Any other discussion on that?
Sam, I have,
All right, Steve.
all right, we just, your motion is to allow them a 10% on change orders, correct?
Up to 10%.
Right, but say it's 10%, so we're talking 15 grand a pop. Is there a limit on that?
It's up to 15 grand.
That would be the limit.
Yeah, it's a
So
total.
only a one-time thing.
You could have
What if
more
you
than
have
one.
3 change orders?
If, as long as they don't total more than 15,000, the total can't go over the 15,000, 10%.
So you could have 10 change orders and it can only go to 15,000.
Correct.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to be clear on that.
Well,
Total of 10%.
Because I've seen our change orders at our current renovation and it hasn't been pretty.
Yes.
Steve, and that's the administration's authority that we're voting on right now. If it's more than that, we're gonna have to go back to the board and say we need more. That's all.
John, I understand that, but my point is, in my opinion, when you have change orders, a lot of that goes back to engineering and design.
Absolutely.
Understand.
They gotcha.
Although, okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Dennis.
Opposed. All right, carries. Thank you very much. All right, we've got a motion to approve the revised CAPE contract with Bethesda Lutheran Services from July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. Is there a motion?
A motion.
Second, Dennis.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. We got the financial items, invoice payables. Do we have those, Terry?
I'm sorry. Yes, there should be a list for the open invoices for general fund, student activities, and I believe there may also be some capital project invoices.
Any discussion on any of those? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? All right, we've got the addition of the engineering update. Dennis, you spoke eloquently, and it was not any of our desire to have another Zoom meeting. And I hope I never have to log into Zoom after tonight ever again. But at any rate, the part of this part that I want to do is to make sure we have a date for our next meeting where we'll have Chris Coughlin there. We will go over the plans in person. I think the superintendents are going to be invited. My suggestion is, because July, we don't normally have a meeting schedule, and we know that the fourth Thursday works for everybody. No other school district has a meeting. And Tim has been so gracious to feed us steak and lobster that night if we do it on the fourth Thursday. That my suggestion is to move it to our regular meeting at 6 o'clock on the fourth Thursday of July.
That's served at your place.
Well, I don't care where Tim gets it.
I'll work on that.
Does that work for everybody, that we can do that at in-person meeting, go over the renovation plans and deal with anything else that we need to, as far as that'll be the main option, but obviously as things constantly change, by then we might have a little bit more feeling on what's going to happen for the first day of school. We may have to have some business dealing with some other things, but does that work for people?
Yep.
Hey, Sam, also, yeah, that number, maybe you could send out, maybe Chris could send out a drawing or two, maybe a PDF or something ahead of the meeting, just for people to look at and, have an idea what we're going to be talking about. Might be helpful.
So if we can get us
have all the
something
specs.
to review beforehand, so that if you've got questions, we can come and be ready for something. Maybe not the
And save
entire
time.
project, but something.
Yeah, right.
I think we can make that
On a-
request.
Do you know on a percentage basis how far Chris is into it?
Chris, we have not had the second invoice, but Chris is ready to deliver his work, and then he would drop the second invoice.
So refresh our memory. Where is he then in the process? Is that basically complete
Percentage-wise.
drawings?
He's nearing what he believes to be the completion of this project based on the instructions that we gave him initially, which I think, I won't go down the list of that, but we had a separate conversation of exactly what is it that we're buying, and that's what he's delivering.
Yeah, because it's going to be important to have those drawings before the billing, right? We want to see the drawings before we pay anything.
That's correct.
Right.
And then there was always to be a short follow-up to receive the third billing.
John, any other questions on this item that we want? I think we can request that. Fred, you and I can talk. We can talk to him and see what he could release ahead of time, just so that the JOC can start looking at it. Some of his work, what he's comfortable releasing. It doesn't have to be everything, but we'll see what he's got, what he can do, so we can have some questions and be prepared to.
Sure.
Some of that.
Sure.
Any other discussion on this topic at all?
Because we want to set a date. Let's see if we're something alternative might have to come up, and we still want to see these drawings. So can we push it into August, first week in August? Let's say something, foreseen that doesn't happen. We want to know that we want to see these drawings before we meet. Could that be noted?
Yes, that's what we just discussed. The meeting is going to be scheduled for the fourth Thursday in July.
Yeah. What if something happens? It will be postponed if we don't have access to the in person.
We will have access to them.
In person, not Zoom.
That is the full intention. Yes, Dennis.
Good with that. I'll vote for yes on that.
We'll burn Zoom. Any other discussion? That takes us to the JOC board remarks and comments. We've been making lots of those. Anybody have any following? Terry, do you have the date of that, the July the 4th Thursday? I don't have a calendar in front of me.
I don't have one in front of me. Let me see if I can pull one up here.
It's the 23rd of July.
Thank you.
July 23rd. 6
Hey, we talked
p.m.
last week about JOC email addresses. Did that progress any further?
I didn't hear the comment or question.
Jeff, we had asked Jeff to come up with something there, and I haven't seen anything yet. Where are we at with that, Jeff?
For your, repeat the question.
The private, or not private, but ECTS, was it an email account or?
Yeah, so we discussed, we have options that we can do. I thought the brakes were on that until the board decided what they wanted to do. We can provide email. We can provide a private, username and password to access things privately. But I thought I heard the brakes were on that.
All right, we'll take that. We'll discuss that a little bit more and see. I thought we were moving forward, but we can. I don't want to deal with that tonight. I want to get done with this. We're going to adjourn here in a minute. Then we're going to go into executive session for personnel and for safety. Right, Tim? Is that an allowable safety? Right.
That's correct. Safety is permitted. Under the
There you go.
Sunshine Act.
So that'll be our reason. We're going to do that. We will not have any more voting or anything tonight. So we will go ahead and somebody like to move us to adjourn this meeting.
Mahoney, motion to adjourn.
Awesome. we'll just adjourn it because I'm sure you all will agree. Do we need to take a break or can we, well, we got to give Jeff a couple minutes to get off the live stream and all that. So if you got to grab a drink or something, it's not going to go as long as last month, I promise.